Jock Journal Radio. Jock Journal Radio brings you NFL Talk Late Night. Just two hardcore fans talking football after their kids have gone to bed, and they invite you to join our conversation. If there's a hot topic or even a cold topic, these chumps will be jawing it up every night. So leave those nudie sites alone and call us. And if you're lucky, they might give you my number. NFL Talk Late Night from Jock Journal Radio.
All right, Jock Stars, thank you for showing up with us tonight. It's January 19th, 2016. Yes, there's only a handful of teams left in the playoffs, and tonight we're going to be talking about one matchup that we will probably never see again. But before we get to that...
hope not.
Yeah, Jordan versus Bird, Magic versus Bird, all these, legendary matchups of the past. We're living in one right now, and we're gonna talk about that tonight. But with that, I'm Nash,
and I'm Matt,
and you're listening to NFL Talk. So I guess the cat's out of the bag, and anybody who's listening at this point could pretty much figure out what we're going to be talking about for most of the hour tonight. We're going to be talking about Tom Brady versus Peyton Manning. This is the final chapter. Well, growing up, we remember watching things like Jordan versus Bird, Magic versus Bird, all these historic, legendary matchups of major athletes, the Clash of the Titans, the legends versus the legends. Do you ever realize that we're actually kind of living in one right now, Matt? I think Matt muted again.
God, I am really mentally slow on a regular basis. So, yeah, I don't like. You're right, we are, and to give both of these guys credit, they're unbelievable quarterbacks. I'm not a huge Peyton Manning fan. I think Brady is much better than Peyton Manning, just because he's a lot more clutch. It's like Peyton Manning got most of the regular season talent, and his brother got a decent amount of the clutch. But long story short, yeah, two great quarterbacks going at it.
I guess, and I'm going to integrate everything into Brady versus Manning tonight. So our Shock the Jock is going to be on Brady versus Manning. But Matt, what is your either Tom Brady or Peyton Manning memory? What is it that you remember most about these things? A moment in these people's legacy, in these people's history that's going to ring out and ring true, and it's going to stay with you, where you're going to be telling your kids and your grandkids, well, I remember when, and they're going to look at you with these gleaming eyes thinking, wow, my dad was alive and watched Peyton Manning, or my dad was alive and saw the great Tom Brady. Which story are you going to pull out of your arsenal for that?
Look, let's hope I'm not telling my kids stories about either one of these guys, but just like a gambler, right? A gambler, if you ask a gambler to remember his greatest win, sometimes it's hard for them to remember which was their best win. If you ask them to remember the best beat they had, they will always remember that. A really sound loss. I'm a gambler, and I remember my beats. Just like with Peyton Manning, I remember when he beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs with the Indianapolis Colts. He's always had our number. And we, they didn't punt the whole game. Their punter never had to come onto the field, and they absolutely tore us a new one. So, and Manning, right, just with those little check downs and calls at the line, the guy just, he really was like Michael Jordan. That's one thing about Peyton Manning. He's like Michael Jordan, where as he got older, he could beat you with his knowledge of the game still was enough. Even when Jordan was past his prime physically, his knowledge of how to play basketball made him elite. And Peyton Manning the same way. His knowledge of the game can beat you. And it did that day, and I will always remember that beat that we had.
Yeah. No, I totally get you. I really do. My of the two, I have one major memory that really rings true to me, and that was the first time watching Peyton Manning in CenturyLink Field. It was hilarious. I don't know if you watched this at the, it only happened like 4 years ago or maybe 3 years ago. It was the year that they actually went to the Super Bowl, and that's a whole nother Peyton story altogether. But when he was up there in CenturyLink Field and the crowd was going crazy, he was on the sideline after having a horrible first 2 series through a pick 6, I think, and one, and everybody was just I think he had 2 sacks in the first one. It was just terrible start, and he just was totally was so upset and so visibly angry. He was throwing things around, and he says, you could read his lips, there's too much noise. And I mean, he was looking up at the crowd, just thinking, "This is ridiculous." That look of stunned, this cannot be a real situation that a person could actually be in. Type of look on his face as everything was come crashing down around him in this horrible experience. He doesn't have a lot of those, As an NFL quarterback, he does not have a lot of loss to his record. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking just a win-loss. I'm talking just. He doesn't normally get beat, but he was totally just defeated by that crowd and the insanity that was going on, and it was hilarious to sit there and watch him with that big old giant forehead of his and where the pads make those marks, those red marks around his head, and that little crown of red, I call it. It was fun for me to kind of see Peyton Manning, the great Peyton Manning, get owned in CenturyLink Field. So I guess that's going to be our Shock the Jock, and let's go straight to it.
So now that one of these asshats has nerve damage from the Shock the Jock, we play a little differently. They have a question, so surprise them with your answer. You could win money if it's shocking enough.
All right, Jock Stars, it's that time. We want you to go ahead and send us your best Shock the Jock statement for your best time that you can remember, that one time of either Tom Brady or Peyton Manning inside of their career, something that will last in your mind forever. In a few moments, we're going to have Sean Mann, the sports historian, with us from the Sports Drive. He's on in the mornings.
I have a good one for Peyton Manning.
Go for
a
it.
good one. I have a great one for Tom Brady. What I really remember very vividly about Tom Brady is when the Chiefs played him last year and absolutely killed them, and he sat on the bench pouting at the in the fourth quarter because he got benched. So that pouting face, I really remember very vividly as well.
Yeah, when he looks completely dejected.
It's just bitter. And he doesn't look that way very often. So what a treat to see him. Look, how do you feel bad for this guy? It's like, oh yeah, you get to drive home in your Bentley to Giselle in your amazing house with your great hair. I'm never going to feel bad for you, guy, ever. This guy could literally have anything happen to him, and I'm still like, yeah, but it's Tom Brady. It's not that bad. This guy's he's like a cat. He'll always land on his feet. It's ridiculous.
Well, that's Tom Brady for you. It doesn't matter how big of crap storm he is in. Somehow, some way, he finds a brilliant way out the other side of it. And Tom Brady, I don't know, but he always kind of looks like, you remember the 1980s movies? In the 1980s movies, there was always that one really good-looking guy who wore the glasses, that had the hair and all that other stuff. We used to call him the ski prick because for whatever reason, I don't know why, we always associated him with the ski because he would always have that bundled up look. Tom Brady's a ski prick. And nobody likes the ski prick. He's like one of those 1980 cliche, popular guys that's a complete and total jerk for the rest of the world to have to deal with. I don't like Tom Brady, not because he's good and I'm jealous. I have nothing to hate about him on that regard. What I hate about Tom Brady is just the arrogance that he exudes. And I don't just mean little arrogance. It's even that Under Armour commercial where we had to look at freaking 50,000 Tom Brady's all moving around in formation. That's the type of stuff that honestly makes me throw up a little bit with inside my own mouth, and then I have to swallow it. it's not a fun experience. You get it? You got anything like that with Tom Brady? Am I the only one having these feelings?
No, of course not. Everyone has these feelings because he's Tom Brady and he's like that. He makes everybody feel a little bit worse about themselves. And that's just a quality that is pretty unique to him and a couple other people. And it's ridiculous. And I think everyone secretly roots for his demise because of that. I honestly do. I think everyone is kind of like, this asshole. This jerk. Can he finally just have something, not great happen to him? And so that's why people are subtly happy when not good things happen to him.
Here's somebody who would be very upset when something bad happens to Tom Brady, and that's Sean Mann, sports historian, and also the biggest fan of the Boston any sports team that might be there. He's live with us here, and
that I am.
Sean, what is one of those big memories when we're doing a little shock the jock question for the night? What is one of those big memories that you have of either Tom Brady or Peyton Manning that is gonna sit there in your mind for years to come, well after their careers are over with, and you will be sitting there and reveling with your grandchildren and telling them of the stories? What is that one moment in these sports historical figures' lives that's going to come first to your tongue?
Well, first off, Nash and Matthew, I want to thank you both very much for having me on tonight for the show. It was a great evening. I had a great day today. I was happy. You're talking about me being a Boston sports fan of anything. It was a great day, especially when the Bruins beat the Canadiens in hockey tonight, 4-1. I have to say, there are several memories that come into play when with the rivalry between Brady against Manning. It's amazing. It's funny to think about this. After Denver defeated the Pittsburgh Steelers 23-16, they were talking mainly about the rivalries of other greats, that we've seen, like Muhammad Ali against Joe Frazier in boxing, or, of course, one of the all-time great matchups that we'll never see in the NBA again, Larry Bird against Magic Johnson. And then, of course, now we got Brady against Manning. I'd have to say probably the favorite memory I have. Of course, the playoff memories are one. I think the first one, like when Drew Bledsoe got knocked out in week number 3, Nash and Matthew, in week number 3 against the Jets. The Patriots lost the game 10-3. Tom Brady came in, didn't necessarily have a really big game, but nobody really knew who Tom Brady was. And it just turns out that the first time that Brady came in to start his NFL career as starting quarterback against the Indianapolis Colts, and that was when the Patriots demolished them at the old Foxborough Stadium, 44-13. And remember, that was a couple weeks after 9/11. That was a big, big memory because everybody thought that when Brady came in, it was full of potential. They thought, wow, here's this guy that nobody heard of. Can this guy be the leader of the team? And apparently he has. That's why he's great. He's the best quarterback in the NFL. 4 Super Bowls, you can't take that away from him. And he earned them. And it was also because defense and special teams were a big thing. Yeah.
Sean, and so you remember your one moment is kind of seeing him run into that white horse and gallop into that New York Jets victory. I get it. That's when the man crush occurred.
He's giddy while you're talking about it.
Oh, jeez! Wow.
I can hear him giggling. He's literally giddy while you're talking about it. That's funny.
Oh, wow.
But I remember this game. He actually replaced Drew Bledsoe. After Drew Bledsoe was hitting the ribs so hard, it actually caused eternal bleeding for Drew Bledsoe. And he ended up spending most of the season basically trying to rehab from that. And if I remember right, at the end of that season, there was a huge quarterback controversy as to who was going to lead them into the playoffs. Am I mistaken?
Yes, that's right. Led him into the playoffs. And what was amazing about that 2001 season in 01? The Patriots were 11-5 that year. And I have to tell you one thing about it is that when they were 11-5, nobody even thought they were going to be a team that would make be a big threat in the playoffs. Of course, today is the anniversary of when the Tuck rule came into play, and it was a while. I'll never forget that. I had friends that I grew up in Montana with that were big Raider fans.